And welcome everybody to the final yard here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I am your host, Louis Sung. I am joined by Chris Early and Junior from the Inside Leverage crew. So if you guys are fans of the Inside Leverage crew, you know Junior quite well. So gentlemen, Miami Dolphins have won 30 to a big fat 0. The last time the Dolphins shut anybody out was 3 years ago. And do you know what team they shut out?
I'm going to say the Jets.
They shut out the Jets 3 years ago, and so they have done so yet again. The Miami Dolphins, the performance overall today, we're going to talk about it as we get into this show, but it has been a fantastic show to watch on the television. Now we're going to give you guys a show to enjoy right now. Daniel Barry, always good to have you on here. I see a lot of things on X about joined. I think the comments are reading that it's joined, as in like somebody will watch the show and then it'll just say on X, oh, we are watching the show from X. So I don't know. I don't. That feels like it should be a glitch, but never mind. We're really glad to have you here with us, obviously. So we're gonna get into all that. But before that, really quick, as always, we got to mention that this show is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each. It's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less in their projected stat. They give you free squares like the Nikola Jokic one, which is on right now. Jokic is Jokic. I got to say it right. Nikola Jokic. So you got free squares like that. You got special Taco Tuesday promos. And of course, Flex Friday special where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. With offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you're any kind of a fantasy sports fan. Use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. All right. So 30-0. Dolphins had a fantastic game overall, just looking at the Dolphins stats. And mind you, we knew going into the game because we saw the inactives list. We thought for sure that Tyreek was going to go because he wanted to get 2,000. Then the decision was made that Tyreek was not going to play. He was going to be inactive. Not only that, so was Xavier Howard. So was Javon Holland. So were a lot of important players. Teron Armstead, I don't know how long he's played in the game. I know that Austin Jackson went out, and so Kendall Lamb had to move to right tackle. I don't know if that meant Armstead came back in or if Keon Smith took over at left tackle. We're going to have to take a quick look at that. But either way, all things considered, the Dolphins could do no wrong. The only thing that I can really point out and say that I really despised was literally in the last 30 seconds, that last punt by Jake Bailey. I don't like Jake. Jake Bailey is a horrible punter. He's a terrible, terrible punter. Like, I really hope that the only reason Jake Bailey is here is because they paid him a lot of money. And then next year they can go get Michael Turk and say, yeah, sorry about that. We just had to stall out his contract. But, gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and get your thoughts. And Junior, as the guest commentator today, I want to go ahead and get your thoughts first.
First of all, great win for the defense. Finally, a shutout performance by them, much needed as they improved throughout the season. Offense was shaky a little bit. It was expected with the whole transition of the offensive line, but in the end, we ran the ball well. We passed efficiently. Overall, great performance as the quarters developed, as time progressed. So overall, a good win for the defense, efficient passing, and good running for the offense. I enjoyed the win.
Duke.
Yeah, I mean, there are some things to nitpick about this game, and you'll find some things that are rough to look at. I'm looking at the stats right now. The biggest thing is the penalties. There were 9 for 65. Some of it was ticky-tack kind of stuff, but overall, a good quality win. And like Junior said, for me, it was less about the score the Dolphins had and more about that 0 on the Jets side of the scoreboard. After what happened last week, you had to put up with that and the collapse in the last few minutes of the game. The Dolphins come out, and I thought for sure the Dolphins were going to give up points on that one drive, and Brandon Jones said, nah, fam, we got you. So they pitched a shutout. That's what I'm happy about. So a plus 30 on the point differential is good. They're 10-4, still doing well, and they needed this, So good for them. Bradley Chubb, what else can you say? The dude was a monster today. The only beef that I have about Bradley Chubb was that it looks like that the stats had him at 3.5 sacks, and they took away a half sack for him. So I'm a little disappointed in the stat people. But otherwise, great job by him. Overall, great defensive performance. And the offense didn't have to do a lot. it was kind of like, we're here to do what we got to do. And basically, the whole second half, they were just playing playing very conservative ball. Like, we're not going to try to do a whole lot. They made some big plays when they needed to Waddle, but otherwise, it was just, hey, let's survive and advance, and that's what they got.
Yeah, and Bradley Chubb in particular on the defense, man. I still remember earlier on this season, and still talking about how even last season, the trade for Bradley Chubb, it was a mistake. We gave up a first-round draft pick for a pass rusher who's not that special, etc. We heard all of this, and for a while we were buying it a little bit. I was buying. I was like, we need more from Bradley Chubb. We need more from Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb in the past several weeks, and people have been talking about just last week when he started, like, he was angry and he started playing angry. He's been playing out of his mind for the past 5-6 weeks now. Bradley Chubb has been fantastic all season long. So I really feel like if you can say that there's anybody who's played up to his contract, I think Bradley Chubb at this point has earned it. He's up to 8 sacks on the season. That's more than we were expecting from him at this point. I think there are a lot of people who are looking at him saying he's not going to live up to his contract. We're going to have to find a way to get rid of him early on. Like, now I'm looking at Bradley Chubb and thinking, can we restructure you and try to be able to save a little bit of money this next upcoming season, because we're going to have to pay some of our other guys, because, you want to keep the core together as much as you possibly can. And now that we have this kind of faith in Bradley Chubb, I see Duke telling me timeout. What did I say wrong?
Bradley Chubb, according to the ESPN app, and if this is wrong, I apologize. Coming into the game, he had 6.5 sacks. He is now at 9.5 sacks.
Okay, so wait, so he does have 3 sacks, or is it not?
He has 3 sacks this game. He had 6. He had 3. He had 6.5 coming in. So that half sack would have given him double-digit sacks, which is why I'm upset about it.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, even then, Bradley Chubb, if he deserves to get as much money up front as I think he can get at this point. So Bradley Chubb, by all means, give him a restructure, keep him around for a while. He's earned it, and it'll actually help the Dolphins save a little money earlier on. Lee Connolly's asking who won't get paid. I'm concerned about Christian Wilkins. I'm concerned we won't be able to keep him because he's I was one of the ones screaming at the top of my lungs all off season long. Give Christian Wilkins whatever money, like whatever ticky-tack money guaranteed or elsewise that you are haggling over that's keeping you from getting him to sign on the dotted line. Just give it to him. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So go ahead and just give him them. But now they talked about, he didn't get enough sacks. How many sacks does Christian Wilkins have now? Like, you have it pulled up, Duke. You have all those stats pulled up. How many sacks does Christian Wilkins have? Go ahead and give me the number after you unmute.
He got a half sack this game, according to now. They usually modify stats midweek when they review the game, so we'll see. But he had a half sack. I'm trying to find his name here. All right, so he was at 7.5 on the season. I don't think this is updated for the game, so he should be at 8 sacks total.
So Christian Wilkins has 8 sacks. So the only thing,
I believe so.
I mean, even still, Duke, even if you want to say it's only 7.5, even still, that's a career high for him. That was the one criticism, literally the only criticism that anybody had of Christian Wilkins coming into this season was he doesn't get sacks. He has 7.5/8 sacks.
And you look at the guy that played across from him today, or on the other team, I should say.
Quinnen Williams, yeah.
Quinnen Williams, he has, I think, 4 sacks on the season, one of which he got today.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one that got paid. Dexter Lawrence, Wilkins' college teammate, got paid. And now Wilkins is going to come in and likely going to have double-digit sacks for the season. So if not, he's going to be close to 10. So that's it's going to – they've got ways they can maneuver and get money. Particularly if the cap goes up like expected. I think it's supposed to go up. That projection was maybe $20 million more than expected. So with the stuff that they can do, they can make some moves and get these guys. The guy that's going to be hurt the most is probably going to be Connor Williams, just because he's hurt as a free agent. So I don't know what they're going to do with him. But Robert Hunt's in there. I think they might restructure Chubb, Hill, some guys. I don't know, but yeah, they need to get Wilkins under contract. That was the guy that I thought they were going to do, and then they got Sealer instead, who came up with a full sack today. So I don't know what his numbers are. I'd have to look him up. But man, I love talking about when the defense steps up like this. I think they took last week or Monday night's game to heart.
Yeah, they took the fourth quarter off, and it kicked them in the butt. So now they have to really push themselves
So
to
now
show themselves off.
So what they don't need is to get the big head again and go into this Dallas game.
Yeah.
Although I will say this, it's easy when the opponent coming in is 4-8 or whatever the Titans were to kind of overlook them and say, hey, we've got this. This is in the bag. They needed a game like today to say, you know what, we are who we are. And we know what we're capable of. The Jets had, I think, 108 total yards, 103 total yards of offense. Most of that was garbage time in the game. I think they had they were less than double digits yards for the first half, something ridiculous. So I don't think they'll overlook the upcoming game given the magnitude of it.
Exactly.
But yeah,
I agree, and I do think that heading to these last 3 games, you have really good opponents, and you want to make sure you have a seeding in the playoffs. I know we're talking about where the seeding will be, but you want to make sure to let other teams know that you are for real, you are a contending team, and we'll see you in the playoffs. And I think having that loss against the Tennessee Titans was a very humbling experience in my opinion, and to not underestimate a team that's below 500. So you want to make sure that you're going to head to this game prepared and ready to go, because now the Cowboys, the Ravens, and the Bills are teams that people are going to look at.
And so now the next thing I want to talk about really quickly here, I want to talk about this whole Tua Tagovailoa thing. Because Duke, you know, Junior, you both know this. The talk about Tyreek Hill, is he the MVP? Does he deserve it more than Tua does? Is he more important to the offense than Tua is? I'm going to just say this. At this point, everybody talking about, there were tweets out there. There were tweets out there that people are going to see that Tua is not that special without Tyreek Hill. Those of us who have been watching Tua ever since he got here to Miami, even before Tyreek even showed up, we knew that Tua was getting a raw deal. We knew that Tua was talented. We knew that Tua could Tua was throwing to Malcolm Perry and Lynn Bowden Jr. And somehow he was not, I don't want to say, like, I guess I can put it this way. He wasn't awful. And the only reason I even say it that way is because Brian Flores as a whole, the offense was bad. It was built for Ryan Fitzpatrick, who literally did not care where he threw the football. He was just going to throw it, and he prayed every single time that somebody was going to be around there to catch the football. Like, there was no real strategy to it. It was just Ryan Fitzpatrick just makes some Fitz magic happen. So for Tua, for him to be able to function in that offense at all with the receivers that he had, and he still looked competent. You didn't look at Tua and say that there was no hope for the future, because you knew there was something there. Even watching with Brian Flores, now you have Mike McDaniel, and Tyreek Hill was there for the whole time, and obviously he benefited from having Tyreek. No Tyreek today. He was not in the game plan. I think that's ultimately why he was labeled as inactive. I think they planned for Tyreek Hill to not be in the game. So what did they do? Did Tua just fall over and die? Nope. Here's the stats for everybody. 21 of 24, 224 yards. He did go under my prize picks projection, but that's because he got benched in the fourth quarter for scoring too much. So 21 of 24, 224 yards and a touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns for Raheem Mostert. So give Mostert credit again for that. But even then, the running game itself, 15 carries for 42 yards for Mostert, 2.8 yards a carry. That's not great. Devon Achon, 9 carries, 32 yards, 3.6 yards per carry. Jeff Wilson, 2 attempts for 5 yards. And as for Mike White, I think that's more just not going anywhere. But the running game, it was good enough to be able to give the offense just what they needed to score points. And the fact that the Dolphins did not have to do that much, it's indicative of what this team is capable of. They scored 30 points. None of those points were scored by the defense. You had a few field goals thrown in here and there. Okay. You got 2 touchdowns by Raheem Mostert running the football and 1 deep throw to Jaylen Waddle, which again, nobody expected. Anybody expect Tua to go deep? I think the Jets actually called timeout on one play because they saw Jaylen Waddle one-on-one with a cornerback near the bottom side of your screen. And Tua was laughing when the Jets called timeout because I think he realized, yeah, they saw that this was coming, so they stopped us. So Tyreek Hill being there obviously makes the offense much better than it is. But I'm just saying it right now. If you're talking about MVP, you're talking about the most valuable player on your football team, that is Tua Tagovailoa. Because he is the only one that if he leaves, the offense falls apart entirely. You can run without Tyreek Hill. We literally saw it today. You still had Sauce Gardner over there, the supposed best secondary in the NFL, and Jaylen Waddle in that game, 8 catches for 142 yards. Jaylen Waddle can do the Tyreek job. He can. But if you have Mike White out there at quarterback, you're not going to get the same performance. You can have all the wide receivers out there. Mike White will still have a couple good plays here and there, yes, because Tyreek is a game changer. But you're not going to have that same productivity. You need Tua in this offense more than you need Tyreek Hill in this offense. I'm standing by that. Maybe you guys disagree with me, but I'll go ahead and let you have your say.
No, I mean, the quarterback is the most important position on the field, and you've got to have him out there. And it's obvious, we saw it last year, and can't really judge Mike White because he's not playing meaningful snaps. I was going to make a joke about, well, we've seen Tua get pulled for Mike White again. When are we going to have that conversation? But it's weird because it was one of these games that Tua did just enough. He didn't have to go out and do a whole lot. They had 57 total plays. They just didn't need a lot. I am thankful on that first touchdown drive that they ran the ball. I thought we were going to get 4 straight runs on that drive. So yeah, Tua's the most important player, and we saw it today. Now, had this game been a different set of circumstances, I still think Tua would have played well and could have and shown what he could do. But the way the game went, it was not necessary for Tua to do a whole lot. And I said on the pregame that we were probably going to see a lot of short passes, and that's kind of what we saw. He moved the ball, but he did just enough to get the ball down the field, get in scoring position, and that was all that was needed. And then the second half happened, and it was one of those situations where, like, all right, we're just going to, do very limited, just to see what we can do. And it wasn't necessary to do a whole lot. So, and one guy that you mentioned, so all off season, there were names floated around, right? Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor. Raheem Mostert is the first Dolphin in the team's history with 20 touchdowns on the season.
Mm-hmm.
He got the record last week. He tied it. He has 18 rushing touchdowns now, and he has 2 receiving touchdowns. 20 touchdowns on the season. No Dolphin ever. Think of all the people that they've had. Ricky, the Marks brothers, all the players that they've had. No one has had 20 touchdowns. So hats off to Raheem Mostert for going out there and showing, hey, you know what? All these people saying the Dolphins needed a running back, they didn't need a running back.
I was on that. I was out there saying they didn't need one. The only reason I was pro Dalvin Cook was because I thought you could get him for cheap and it'd be a nice little feather in the cap of the running back room. I didn't think we needed Dalvin Cook at all. I knew Raheem Mostert could play. I knew that he was going to be fantastic in this offense. All this trade for Jonathan Taylor, give up a boatload for Derrick Henry, go and get all these guys. No, don't need it. Don't need it.
Well, for me, Lewis, I was a part of that train with getting another running back. Only the simple fact was the injury concerns with Mostert. And now the way that they're using him and how he has built his body up to be able to sustain hits and everything, he has shown me that he's durable and that he can produce in his offense. That was the only reason for me that I wanted to join that train of acquiring another running back, was the whole injury aspect of it, because he is talented and he can be good on this offense. But the availability, the moments that we need him, I felt last year it was a cap.
He only missed 2 games.
Well, that's true, but it felt like the important games were missed. You know what I'm saying? And then the cap of running him a certain amount of times just to preserve his body, That's what I felt happened last year. But clearly, he showed to me that he is capable, that he can be that guy to run the ball, and then you have A-Chain who can be that change of pace that we've clearly see. So he has proven me wrong. I can admit right now that I was wrong about it. And moving forward, man, 20 touchdowns, that's insane.
LaDainian Tomlinson had 31 during his prime years. I don't think Mostert's going to catch that, but
Mostert's not getting the record, but the fact that no Dolphin has done that ever, and we kind of understand that, probably the top running backs that they've had, Ricky was up there. He would have probably surpassed that at some point had his career gone a different way. And you had the guys in the 70s, and it was kind of a committee approach then. But it's still a feat that he got 20 touchdowns in a season. And I mean, that's probably not something a lot of teams have anyway. I mean, you might figure there's some guys out there that have some big time records, but it's just a big deal. And I mean, that's a name it's going to go up there. And even if it gets surpassed at some point in the future, he's going to be up there with legends, right? Mark Clayton had the record at 18 touchdowns in 1984. So there's not been anybody since, the early David Lee Roth era Van Halen years that somebody scored that many touchdowns for the Dolphins, and now he's gone over that. So just a big hat tip to him. I was hoping A-Chan gets in the end zone again because we've already got two guys with double-digit touchdowns. I don't know if the Dolphins ever had three guys, and he's like, one touchdown away? He's got, I think, 9 total for the season, maybe 7. I don't know. Somewhere he's got a chance. So I'm hoping he gets there as well. The running game didn't do that well today. And that little pitch play that they do, they can load that on a rocket and fire it into the sun. Just, I'm done with that.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
So just, we don't have the offensive linemen right now to run that. You need athletic guys. And the guys that we have just aren't, they're not built for that. So
Robert Jones, Lester Cotton, that's not their forte.
And even
they're bulldozers. They don't move quickly.
You can run downhill with those guys. You can't do that play, but they're intent on running it. So maybe when Robert Hunt gets back, I don't know what they're going to do at left guard, but
I say Robert Jones. I think he's most athletic among the three. So he has the experience to play left guard. So you put Robert Jones at left guard, you have Liam, and then you have Robert Hunt. I mean, that's a better outing than what we've seen. But they did their job when they needed it. It was expected. So.
And they gave up 3 sacks, and I think a lot of that, I think the one was a coverage sack. I mean, Tua held the ball for a little while. We're so used to Tua throwing the ball in, less than 2 seconds, and he held that ball for a while. And that happens. I mean, hat tip to their defense for doing that. I think a couple of the others were just like he gave up on it, so not a big deal in that regard. Again, I think the last 2 came in the second half, and it was a situation where, you know what, we're really not trying to do anything special here and put the ball in harm's way. Just take the sack, live to fight another down or punt or kick field goal, whatever it is. So, again, the offense didn't have to show a lot today. They did their job. The defense, I know it's 30-0, but when you pitch a shutout, you got to give the defense their flowers. And I don't care even if it is the crappy Jets. Zach Wilson never looked comfortable in the pocket. Trevor Siemian never looked comfortable in the pocket. They got it done. So, and a couple of notes here because I'm just kind of perusing the scores. The Browns won, and the Texans won in overtime. So that helps. That helps.
I just watched the field goal happen. Yeah,
that helps with the Bills. So those guys are ahead of the Bills as of right now. And the Bills game, I think, just started, so I don't know what they're doing. But anything to help out the Dolphins. So,
speaking of the Bills, it kills me. I know you guys watched the feed, Tony Romo, Jim Nance. I love how literally as the Dolphins shut out the Jets 30-0. all Tony Romo can talk about is like, if the Bills make it into the playoffs, man, they could be really dangerous. I'm like, why are we talking about the Buffalo Bills when the Dolphins and the Jets just faced each other and one team just got shut out? Why are we talking about Buffalo? Why are you so desperate to talk about Buffalo, man? I don't get it. I don't. Does Tony Romo see himself in Josh Allen? Does he relate to him in some way on a personal level? That's the only thing I can think of. It truly is. I can only think that somehow Tony Romo sees a younger version of himself and he wants to see Josh Allen succeed because he's living vicariously through him because he couldn't do what Josh Allen is trying to do now.
Yeah, it has to be that, and it's so frustrating. At one point I had to like mute the game and just like look at the game and focus on the game without having to hear him talk about, it just feels like he doesn't want to give us any praise. And if he does, it seems like it's so hard for him to give the praise to the Dolphins when it's needed, when it's shown. So it was frustrating to hear. I hope we don't hear from him for the rest of the season.
I want more Kevin Harlan. Give me Kevin Harlan for the rest of the season.
Yes, we need that.
Well,
preferably at the Bills game. Yes.
The good news is next week's game is broadcast on Fox, so we won't get Kevin Harlan. But
I know, right? That's like that. That's not necessarily good news. I mean, it kind of is, but it's also
you don't get Romo. So
yeah, I don't get Romo, but I don't get Harlan. That like it's so fun. I go back. I've literally started looking up on YouTube Kevin Harlan Dolphins. I just want to watch the games where he's commentating, just because I love how much excitement he has to watch the Dolphins play offense. I love that, as opposed to Romo, who's just like,
Lewis and Duke, maybe the Ravens game. Hopefully, we'll see him there again to give us that spark, that excitement for the Fins fans. You know what I'm saying? So praying for that.
I would love to see that. We're going to get into a little bit more about the defense in just a minute, but there's something else that I wanted to talk about regarding Tua, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more on Pulse Fins Nation as well when Ron can join us. Because there were some tweets, and I made a tweet about it as well earlier this week, because there were people talking about, can Tua put the team on his back? Now, here's my problem with that whole statement, right? What is the definition of putting a team on your back and doing it all yourself? Like willing the team to victory. What does that look like exactly? Because the only thing that comes into my mind when I hear a player putting the team on their back and saying, I am going to be the reason that we win this game and we don't lose. When a player does that, the only guys I can think of who can do that sort of thing right now is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. Why do I say those three? Not because they're better overall, but because those guys are freak athletes who, at the drop of a hat, can run for 30 yards down the field. And that is the only definition I can come up with of putting the team on their back. Because the implication is that the rest of your team is coming up short, and you are the only one who is able to do anything to be able to get this offense moving. Because even if you're not a quarterback who can literally take the ball and just run and do it yourself, you need your teammates to participate. You need somebody to get open. You need somebody to make a big catch. You need somebody else to do that and help you along the way. So wouldn't that by definition mean that you're not putting the team on your back, that somebody else is involved in making the game happen? So that's where I struggle with this whole concept. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
If I may, I think it shouldn't only involve in the quarterback running. I think because I look at Joe Burrow, and yes, Joe Burrow probably most can argue is more athletic than Tua if y'all want to have a debate, but he's not as athletic as those other guys mentioned. But he's dealt with a bad offensive line. But his understanding of the moxiness and when to throw the ball and kind of get the team to get the team going and sparking the team, those are the type of examples I feel, well, for me particularly, where I want Tua to take it to the next level.
Okay, but true or false, Junior? But true or false? Hold on. True or false? In order for that to work, for Joe Burrow to do what he's doing, as you mentioned, does not Jamar Chase have to catch the football on the other end? Does not T. Higgins have to make a play? Does not Joe Mixon? Does not Tyler Boyd? Does not somebody over there have to be on the receiving end of those passes? That's what I'm talking about.
And context is important in when we're talking about when you're leading the team and putting them on their back. So yes, you have to bring those contexts in. That will give an example of what is that definite. Well, like how do you define that? I just think for me, if you're looking at you have weapons or you have at least one or two weapons, you can make it work. But there's some deficiencies or some struggles in the offense overall. Can you give that spark to that offense? Can you get those guys going? Can you get the left guard or the center to get that extra 1 second so he can look down the field and find a Tyreek or Jaylen Waddle if Tyreek is not here, or Cedric Wilson, who's maybe not as dynamic as the other two guys, but is capable, and if given the opportunity, he can make a play or two. Those are the type of examples that I think for me and for some that are looking for Tua to take that next step.
Yeah, I've always had an issue with that idea because everyone is always going to say, well, we need a quarterback that can elevate the players around him. And the same people that I see tweeting this stuff over and over again are the same ones who are like, we need to draft a running back in the first round. We need to draft a receiver in the first round. We need this guy and that guy. I'm like, how do you differentiate between having a guy like Tyreek Hill, who is maybe the best receiver in the NFL right now, for your quarterback to throw to? It's my opinion on this is that I think the people that argue this stuff oftentimes are looking for a negative thing. Well, we need the quarterback to elevate the players around him. And then when he gets, but they want those big time players. But when they get the big time players, well, it's because he's throwing to these big time players. Can't have it both ways. And so I look at it as a team game. Okay. Now, Tua is very good at avoiding pressure. He makes an offensive line that's not as great look better because of the way he moves in the pocket. We watched Tannehill for years stand there like a statue and get sacked after sack because he didn't have that. And so we see that. Tua's got big time players around him like Waddle, like Hill. He's got Mostert scoring 20 touchdowns. He's got these playmakers. And so I think fans just need to kind of chill with this. Sometimes things happen, right? And your quarterback's not going to be able to lead that comeback. But there's going to be games where we need the quarterback to make some big plays. And we saw that last year in the Baltimore game.
I was thinking that.
And so it's not going to be every week. And if your quarterback has to play hero ball every week, your team's not very good.
Ask how many times Josh Allen has had to play hero ball. And yes, sometimes he makes the win. Sometimes he makes the big win. Yeah. Sometimes he makes the big flop too.
And the reason the Bills are not leading the division and are 7-6, struggling to get into the playoffs, is because they rely on him to play hero ball all the time. And if you were a Bills fan, you would honestly sit here and say, well, we know we have Josh Allen. He can make some big plays and he can run and do this stuff like that. But you're absolutely like, yeah, we need a second receiver. We need a guy. They got the rookie tight end who's doing well, but they need somebody else. They would say that we need help on the offensive line. We need help here. And so it always comes back to this. We want the quarterback to do a lot of stuff. And I think I think people watch highlight reels and they see Mahomes do this play and they see Allen do this play or Dak do this play or Herbert or Burrow, whoever you want to say, they make this play and they watch their team. They watch every single play. And you say, well, I turn on Sports Center and watch the highlights and I see this big throw down the field that looks awesome. And you don't see the 5 other checkdowns that happened before that. And you see that with Tua, right? You say, well, I saw all the plays. You don't get necessarily the highlight reel plays because that's the team you're watching. So I think ultimately it's just a greener grass syndrome situation. I think Tua has shown enough in his career that he can put the team on his back. He can lead this team. He can make plays. But again, it does come down to the other people. And we saw it today. I mean, we talked about it on the pregame show about, well, this is going to be a close game and they're going to do this and that because we don't have Hill and whatever. And the offense didn't really need – could they have used Hill? Yeah. Would it have made a difference in this game? No, because they won 30-0 anyway. So what? They'd have scored 45-0. Whatever. So we're going to need Hill next week. We're going to need Hill the rest of the season. He's going to need to make some impact plays like he does. But I think Tua's the guy. We've seen that. So That's my rant. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I get it. Then, like, that's basically where I feel about the whole thing too. Is like the whole idea of one player putting the team on your back. Like, unless you are one of those freak athletes like Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, the definition of what you're talking about, putting a team on your back, it requires other players. It does. You can't you cannot control a player like a Madden game and say, hey, offensive lineman, I need you to block just a little bit better on this one particular play so I can get this deep pass. Either they do or they don't. So for real, either they do or they don't. Either the guy is open or they're not. Just like with even today, there were people saying that Tua is obviously taking horrible sacks. Like, why are you taking sacks? You can't put the team on your back and do something incredible. It's like there was no one open. Who do you want him to throw to? Himself? If you're looking at the play and you watch the play and there's no one to throw to, the only other option at that point is an option that Tua doesn't have because he's not a freak athlete like those other three. If it were Josh Allen, he probably would have tried to take off and run. Tua can't do that.
And see, Tua can scramble.
He can scramble, but he cannot. He can't make a huge play with his legs.
He's not on Josh Allen status here, but I think it's all about opportunity. Whoever's that game changer, that difference maker, is all about giving that opportunity. And part of that as well is giving up on a play so you don't put your team at risk of putting other teams in position to win. So it's so much factors that deals with guys that put your team on your back. You got to lose some to gain some and to make a difference. So I think it's all about opportunities.
And not just about opportunity, it's also, which you're absolutely right on that. You gotta take time. And this wasn't the game to do it. I mean, it's a 30-0 game. The other team had single-digit yards in the first half.
They had 4 yards.
You don't scramble and try to make plays in a game like this. You fall down, take the sack, and like that, we'll punt, and they're not going to do anything. If you want us to talk about somebody who took the game over, put the team on his back, that was Bradley Chubb. That's what he did in this game. Yeah. He was a man on a mission. He played possessed, and he was going to make sure that nothing like what happened Monday night was going to happen in this game. I'm old enough to remember the Monday night miracle. And I was sitting there thinking, like, oh, dear Lord, please don't have us one of these in the fourth quarter of this game. And it just wasn't going to happen. Bradley Chubb came around, got the strip sack, said, that's it. We're winning this game. And so, you didn't need Tua to come in here today and throw for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns and try to win the game. The game was over. Looking at it in hindsight, the game was over after the first quarter. They weren't going to do anything. It was just that kind of day for the Jets. It was that kind of day for the Dolphins. So I get it. People want the big numbers. They want the stuff, but this was not the game to do it. Like, if Tua had taken off and ran this game, particularly in the second half, I would have been upset with that because that was not the time to do it. And so, yeah, like he said, it's about opportunity when the time comes to do it, and it's also about context of the game situation. Just, it's you're up big, they're not doing anything. Survive and advance. 3 more games in this regular season that are very important. You don't want to risk doing something stupid in a game that you've got in hand. And you say that after what happened Monday night.
Exactly. The game was in hand. You were up 2 touchdowns with only 5 minutes left or something.
But this game was in hand, and the defense wasn't going to let it get out of hand. So, just play smart. And that's part of putting the team on your back is playing smart.
All right. So let's get a little bit more into the defense real quick because they really were the stars of the show. Bradley Chubb, and this is based on just Google's listing of it. I don't know if maybe ESPN has different stats. Like you mentioned, Duke, 6 tackles, 3.5 sacks for Bradley Chubb, 2 interceptions for Brandon Jones. Like, after all the crap we've been giving Brandon Jones, taking out his own teammates, he took out Jerome Baker. He took out who else did he take out? I know he ended up hurting someone else. I don't remember who it was, but
X.
He hurt Xavier Howard. So it's like, poor Brandon Jones. We've been crapping on him for the past 3 weeks because the dude is like a human missile and he keeps hitting his own guys instead of actually hitting the other team. But he had himself a game today. No Javon Holland, no Deshaun Elliott. It was him and Elijah Campbell. It was Brandon Jones and Elijah Campbell at safety all day. And Brandon Jones came away with 2 interceptions. So, and this is from a guy who we know over and over again. playing in coverage is not his forte. He is very much a comfortable player in the box. He's very much a Rashad Jones kind of like guy in that regard. He's very impactful when he's in that little box right there. As far as a coverage guy, that's his one weakness. That's the thing that he's not good at. So for him today to get 2 interceptions, in a way, it's almost like just get that monkey off your back. Like you actually were able to do something productive in that regard. So I'm really happy for Brandon Jones on that regard. Eli Apple played well. And grant you, I know that it's the Jets, the offense is terrible, it's et cetera, et cetera. Garrett Wilson is still a good wide receiver. You had to cover him all game. So that was on Jaylen Ramsey. But you just look at the players that we have right now. Xavier Howard did not play. We didn't see a lot of Nick Needham, and I think that was honestly by design. I think they're more of a trust in Eli Apple at this point because he's just been around and playing longer than Needham. Do I think that's fair? Not necessarily. I still think Needham is a better player, but that's not for me to decide. That's a Fangio thing. Lee Connolly pointing out the introduction of Jaylen Ramsey to the defense has been pivotal. Yep. I didn't want to believe it. I really didn't. I still say this. I've been saying this for weeks now. I did not want to believe that Jaylen Ramsey was the linchpin of the entire defense. And as it turns out, absolutely he was. I was hoping and thinking that, Xavier Howard and Kader Kohu and those guys, they're still good. We saw what they did last year. We didn't have Jaylen Ramsey back then. We were able to do some good stuff with them. But as soon as Jaylen Ramsey got here, the defense just flipped the switch. They became superstars overnight, it felt like. And so just having him there has been like Lee said, pivotal. It's been crucial to the defense's ability to function. And also Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer. Those two together are just a menace to any running back. Look at the numbers again. I picked the under on Prize Picks, by the way, for Breece Hall. His under was like 40 something yards. Breece Hall had 6 carries for 12 yards. That's it. Breece Hall, who many people think is one of the better running backs in the NFL. He's probably in the top 10 for a lot of people's lists. He didn't do anything. You could not get past Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer. Those guys are just unreal as a tandem. And that's why, once again, I say it's so important. If you got to franchise tag him, fine at this point. You cannot, under any circumstance, let Christian Wilkins walk in the offseason. You can't. Even if Jaylen Ramsey is the guy who made the defense start to function at a superstar level, I still believe that the heart and soul of this defense is Christian Wilkins. This team goes as he goes. He has more fun than anybody else out there. He's earned it. He has earned every penny that he's going to get. Miami would be dumb to let some other team give him that cash. They need Christian Wilkins. They need to keep him. They were able to find the money to pay Zach Sealer. Somehow they were able to decide to pay Austin Jackson. Not that I don't think he's earned it this season, but if you were able to find money to get Austin Jackson a new contract, you can find a way to keep Christian Wilkins. You have to if you want to keep this defense the way that it is.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the stats here of just what they did. I mean, Breece Hall had 18 total yards, 6 receiving yards. The best receiver for the Jets was Xavier Gibson, had 2 catches for 29 yards. Garrett Wilson, 3 catches for 29 yards.
That happened all in one drive.
And he didn't have Wilson did not have a catch in the first half, I don't believe. I did see Nick Needham on the field quite a bit. It looked like he had 2 tackles. But Ethan Bonner, right, call up from the practice squad, got a pass breakup late in the game. One of the plays I really liked was Andrew Van Ginkel, got half a sack today, but he had that had the play down the field and on the tight end, and the tight end caught the ball, but he played through the hands, right? He didn't play the ball, played through the hands, and he did not complete the catch, which is that's technique. If you can't play the ball, play the hands, and just great play. And how often have we seen the Dolphins in years past get beat up by tight ends? And again, we're not talking about Travis Kelce here, but at the same time, it's just a great play. So the defense overall, they brought the lunch pails today and said, we're not allowing anything like what happened to Monday night to happen again. We're going to take care of our business. And when you limit a team to 100 yards in an NFL game and 0 points, you get 6 sacks and force 4 turnovers. Give all of them cakes. All of them. Give all of them cakes. They deserve it.
Yeah,
All right.
well, and what I really like with the whole Ramsey being back and helping that D line out, and that was the main key that gave that little extra time for the D line to get to the quarterback. Our interiors are +10 in sacks. I don't know when's the last time we've seen that in the league. Maybe that was last year, but the fact that two interior guys combined 10 plus sacks is amazing to me. And it's all credit to having Ramsey in there and giving them that extra time, putting Cater in the right position. Not that he couldn't play boundary, but he suited much better as a slot corner, and it showed when Ramsey came back and seeing the difference in how the D line is getting those sacks. So I am real happy we finally turned the corner. And the linebacking core, before Baker got hurt, he was turning the corner, and they were gelling together with David Long. And the versatility of AVG playing off ball and on the line has been tremendous as well. So I can't wait for these last 3 games. This is where the test really begins now. I'm excited.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm watching the Cowboys right now playing against Buffalo, and let's just say it's not pretty for Dallas at the moment.
I've heard that the Cowboys have been very inconsistent away games. They're good at home, practically undefeated, but these away games.
Sounds familiar.
Mm.
So are you saying it's going to be like looking in a freaky funhouse mirror?
I mean, some people see it that way. I see an advantage for us if we get all our guys back. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to get everyone excited, but I'm just saying, like, I think we really have a chance if Holland comes back, Hunt is back, and we put the right guys in certain positions on offense and defense. I think we have another chance at a dub. I'm calling.
Cap for Life mentioning Micah Parsons got hurt. I mean, listen, not that because you always want to be, we got to beat them when they're at their best in order for it to count. Listen, man, I don't care if Micah Parsons ends up being hurt and he can't play next week. That's a big deal.
I mean, we say that while we're watching Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg, and Lester Cotton take snaps.
Nah, don't jinx it. No,
I'm just saying that's who we're watching play games. Right, the first Buffalo game, Liam Eichenberg starting center. So I mean, it's been that kind of. Kendall Lamb played in this game, played much of the season. So we've had to play teams when the Dolphins have not been at their best. So if another team's not at their best, it is what it is. I mean, if there's a fully healthy team at this point in the season, you tell me who they are, because there's not one. Everyone's banged up. And, I mean, we just played a game without Tyreek Hill, Javon Holland, who else? Xavier Howard. So 3 key big-time players. No Robert Hunt. So you had 3.
No Connor Williams.
3 big-time playmakers, and then two quality starting offensive linemen. Didn't have them, and we still went out there and played. I don't care the quality of how bad they are. It is what it is. So if the Cowboys come into this game and they're banged up, so be it. So are the Dolphins. You just play who you got to play.
Junior, looks like Leo's calling you out a little bit here. I think he might be an Eichenberg question every day of training camp. Would you care to elaborate on that?
Listen, I am a big component of having your guys that you draft develop. Not a lot of our Fins fans were patient with Eichenberg. Granted, he did show and struggled a lot. Now that Butch Berry found the best in him, and of course, he still struggles and he still, has some things that you can but I think this year he's shown that he can be a good quality depth player, a good backup that when needed, he can be serviceable. Not there as far as a starter, in my opinion, but I'm just happy that he progressed throughout this offseason and in this season. I'm just glad that he progressed and he's showing that he has some quality. So yes, I have asked Alf every day off season what he felt about Liam Eichenberg and how he's progressed throughout the offseason. And it's showing a little bit. I hope that the rest of the season he remains healthy and that he can continue to give us good play heading to the playoffs so we can get this run.
And he was hurt as well. He was hurt all week on I think I read that he was in a walking boot. So he suited up and played today and played not at 100%. So, but yeah, I mean, when you can draft guys, and I mean, everyone, including myself, was ready to write off Eichenberg and Austin Jackson. And those guys have stepped up and played very well.
That's the Butch Berry effect in action right
The
there.
Butch Berry effect. Give that guy a blank check. Just go ahead and give it to him. Let him stay. So, yeah. And so that development has helped out. And again, these guys are playing hurt. They're banged up. Everyone's banged up. It's that point in the season. You just got to, if you're not injured, I think it was Bill Parcells said there's a difference between playing injured and being hurt. And Eichenberg toughed it out today. So, the Dolphins didn't run the ball very well, and I would attribute that to that crazy play that they won't get away from, losing 5 yards every time. But they did what they got to do. So again, it's great. We'll reflect on this win today and enjoy a shutout, and then we'll focus on the Cowboys. Hopefully, they can do the Dolphins a favor and beat these pesky Bills.
I would love if the Cowboys could, because the last thing I want is for Dallas to get beat down by Buffalo, even if it is on the road, and then they come to Miami and they're all pissed off. Like, I'm getting tired of getting teams like when they're like in the middle of being embarrassed by a team they're supposed to clobber, and then they go in there and like, we're gonna absolutely get revenge on whoever we see next. That seems to happen a lot with Miami. Didn't Kansas City lose the game before they went to Germany?
Unfortunately, and look what we did. We lost to what most would call an embarrassing loss because we gave up a 14-point lead, and look what we did. Shut out a team and got a whole bunch of sacks and scored 30 points. So I think regardless, though, this feeling, Lewis, the Cowboys coming to us, I don't know. I just have this feeling that they're going to be the same old Cowboys. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's a second road game in 2 weeks for them. It's going to be a tough matchup. Now, I know it's a late start, and the Dolphins are wearing the throwback aqua jerseys, so they are wearing those. But it's a late start. It's going to be essentially a night game. It's going to be a big time game. The Cowboys are going to present some problems for the Dolphins. The Dolphins are going to present some problems for the Cowboys. So it's going to be a great matchup. The next week is going to be absolutely just a tough game. I like Miami's chances, even though they are on the road against Baltimore. But it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be best on best. And hopefully we can come out of there with a win. And then as long as Miami keeps winning, they'll win the division. That's goal number one. So this is the first. This is a double-digit win season. So no matter what happens the rest of the way, Miami's going to have 10 wins. They already got away from the losing record. They're going to have 10 wins. Now the next goal is to win the division. And so we want Buffalo to lose. But if Buffalo loses today with Miami win, they're one game. That's the magic number. So Miami's just got to keep winning, got to keep doing what they've got to do. They got through the basically the easy part of the schedule, despite that terrible game last Monday. So they got through it. They're 10-4. Go out there and beat some of these teams and get in the playoffs, and who knows what's going to happen. So I'm hoping that the Dolphins can get a home playoff game. They should be able to. So they just got to take care of their business. That should be the mantra for the team the rest of the way. Take care of your business.
All right. I mean, I feel like that's been their mantra all season. That's the only reason they've been able. Oh, Dak almost threw an interception right to the guy. That's terrible. All right. We're going to go ahead and call it here. Thank you all so much for joining us for this post-game show. A lot more fun when we could talk about a win rather than a loss. I'm gonna end this here because the sun's starting to shine on my face and I look terrible. It's going to show all my skin flaws, all bazillion of them. But by the way, if you haven't already done so, make sure you go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. And the promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you 100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. We're going to end it here. Fins Nation will be on tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. for all of you early birds out there. Pulse of Fins Nation, 7:30 p.m. on live on Tuesday, as always. And after that, I will be going. Well, there will be one more show available for you guys to listen to on Wednesday. And after that, I am taking a slight vacation because I am going to be going to Texas with my fiance to see with her family for Christmas. So if y'all wanna, I will see if I can work some things out with my crew for shows to continue. So with all that said, we will see you all next time for another episode of The Final Yard.